You know that cereal that sits right next to your favorite kind, but it's a little cheaper and vaguely resembles the original? Almost as if Tony the Tiger hit rock bottom and started saying, "They're okay, I guess?" Well, if you take that same off-brand mentality and put it into sports games, that's what I've been playing.
Wyatt.
The first of these games that I had a meh experience with was Techno Bowl Throwback. This new Techno Bowl had the unfortunate release date of April 28, 2010 on the digital markets for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. The release date hurt the game's development cycle tremendously because it fell right in the middle of EA's exclusivity deal with the NFL. At its most basic, way back in 2005, EA called up the NFL, and they shook hands on a deal that gave EA Sports absolute control over the NFL's creative properties for video game development, in exchange for a ton of cash and a promised annual release. Meaning that any other developer that wanted to use the NFL's teams were out of luck. It's the reason why we keep seeing the same cookie-cutter Maddens year after year, while franchises like NFL Blitz, discounting the 2012 release that was decent at best, NFL Fever, NFL 2K, NFL Game Day, and many others have gotten axed harder than the God of War himself since 2005. NFL 2K5 offered a better product for much cheaper and ended up scaring EA into straight up buying out the competition. I could dedicate an entire video to why this discourages EA from innovating, leading to new games that are little more than graphics boosts with updated rosters. But the reality is that as long as Madden prints money, we are unlikely to see that change. So I'll skip to the topic at hand. Techmo Bowl Throwback was murdered by this deal because it forced its developers, South End Interactive, to use that same off-brand cereal approach for everything, with teams that are Broncos-ish and Bengals-like. Gone are the days of streaking down the sidelines as your childhood hero, and in are randomly generated names and faces. You have the option of manually inputting names of your choosing, but it would take you all day just to rename one roster. And really, who wants to take the time to do that? I would have much preferred an approach that acknowledged the problem that EA's contract created by going with names and models that are references to their real-world counterparts, like Mutant Football League's Bomb Shady instead of Tom Brady. This way, you can at least somewhat relate to what they're trying to put into the game. But licensing issues aren't the only problems with this game. Instead, it suffers from a severe lack of content. It has 3 single-player modes and 1 deserted multiplayer mode. Problem is, each one of these is the exact same thing, with a different format. It's almost like it's trying to say that it's Techno Bowl with like 50% more meh, except they packaged it in the same size box and you're just really confused. Anyway, the game modes themselves include Season, which is a series of 17 exhibition games without much of a bracketing system. Preseason is season mode but shorter, and All-Star is the same thing with all the players having the best stats. No progression system, limited customization, no unlockables, and only 12 achievements, and absolutely nothing to change up the gameplay. All of this means that any game you enter doesn't give you much incentive to perform well, unless you're ultra competitive or you're playing with friends, making whipping the CPU by 40 feel exactly the same as a down by 4 nail biter to the very end. So at this point, you might as well just put a fake mustache on the game and call it a new game. Stylistically though, it does have a few neat mechanics. including the ability to switch between modern and retro graphics at the push of a button. This is good for a few moments that make you go, "Oh, that's cool," before quickly becoming stale. The issue here is that the retro aesthetic ages much better over time than a quote-unquote modern graphics update that's nearly a decade old now. Plus, both the modern and retro styles use the exact same animations over and over again that you will see at least 10 times a game. I realize they kept these limitations in for nostalgic purposes, but in my opinion, they missed out on an opportunity to make something old feel relatively fresh and new for a different audience. The gameplay has all the issues the original Techno Super Bowl had back in the day. Again, these were put back in to capitalize on the people in their mid-30s trying to relive the glory days. But in doing so, they missed out on a major opportunity to fix issues that were merely the result of hardware limitations of the 90s. Instead, they tried to take you back to a time where everything was rad and MTV actually played music. Its saving grace is that the game released for $10, so if you want a cheap journey to your childhood, you got it. I was hoping for a trip down memory lane, but instead, Techno Bowl Throwback is just a reminder that just because you remember things fondly, doesn't mean they hold up. Wait, hold on a minute. What's happening to me?